I can't stand anything about you anymore. What do you mean? Leave. I want to live with just my family. It turns out my in-laws have decided to kick me out. My husband Daniel even prepared divorce papers. I filled out my part. Please sign it quickly. This was the opportunity I'd been waiting for. I took the papers and signed them immediately. My name is Olivia, a 34-year-old housewife. Daniel and I have been married for 5 years. We never had children and have been living together, just the two of us. After graduating college, Daniel took a job at a regular corporation. But it turned out to be a real grind, a sweatshop even. He was working from early in the morning to late at night, both physically and mentally drained. I started looking for something I could do from home to help out. At first, I found part-time data entry jobs, earning a bit on the side. Then I taught myself video production and began to pick up some work, slowly building our savings. Once we had a decent nest egg, I started investing. I educated myself, started practical investing, and kept building up experience. I also saved money through my video production work. After several years of this, I became pretty successful at it. What I was doing was FX trading. It was risky, but given that I was always in front of a computer screen for my remote work, it seemed to fit me. I suggested to Daniel that I could contribute to the rent so he wouldn't have to push himself so hard. At first, he looked at me skeptically. The household is running because I'm working, isn't it? You're probably just making pocket money with your video stuff, right? Actually, I've been earning quite a bit, and I have significant earnings from my investments too. What? So you don't have to stick with that awful job. You can find something else. Really? Yes, thank you for working so hard up till now. Daniel was thrilled and later told me excitedly, I've submitted my resignation. I hope this cheers up Daniel and that our relationship can grow even stronger. But things with Daniel took an unexpected turn. Hey, can we live with my mom and dad? What? Hold on, you mean go live in your parents' house? Even if you switch jobs, my income is enough for both of us to live on, you know. That's why I don't see the need to move in with your parents. No, that's not it. We're going to rent a new apartment in a high-rise building and live there together. What? Check this out. Daniel showed me a flyer for a recently constructed high-rise apartment building. You're seriously thinking of living here? Finally, I can do something nice for my parents. Whoa, hold on. The rent here is $5,000. That's too much. But you're making money from stocks, right, Olivia? We can totally afford it. Well, that's true. It wasn't an unaffordable amount. But I didn't desire such a lavish lifestyle, and I wanted to save for the future, perhaps for when we have kids. I hadn't considered living with my in-laws, Stephen and Jessica, and if we're talking about being dutiful, shouldn't it come from your own earnings? It felt like he was conveniently using me, and it bothered me a bit. Do we absolutely have to live with Jessica and the rest? What? You don't want to? They're still pretty active, right? Stephen is only 2 or 3 years from retirement. I've been working like a dog in a sweatshop and haven't been able to give them much attention, you know? Please help me out on this. Since Daniel pleaded like that, I reluctantly agreed. But this turned out to be a huge mistake in my life. Wow, what an amazing place! The view is great, and it's so clean. I'm glad Dad and Mom are happy too. My in-laws were thrilled about living in a high-rise. They were excited all day on the first day. Daniel really is something, huh? Being able to live this luxuriously means he must be earning a lot. Yeah. I nudged Daniel, who was sitting next to me. Feeling awkward, Daniel finally said, Actually, the rent for this place isn't coming from my earnings. My in-laws looked shocked and said, What? What? Daniel continued, Olivia has been making money in the stock market, and that's how we're covering the rent. You mean it's not from your income, Daniel? Olivia's stock earnings, huh? My in-laws seemed quite taken aback. Well, the truth would come out eventually, so I'm glad Daniel said something. At first, my in-laws looked guilty, as if they were walking on eggshells, which made me feel awkward too. So I told them not to worry too much and to be more relaxed around Daniel. After all, I started investing to ease the burden on Daniel, and if it helps them live more comfortably, that's fine by me. But they turned out to be incredibly selfish people. After Daniel's revelation, they became increasingly brazen. "Olivia, I prefer my food a bit softer," one said. "Olivia, grab me a beer. Oh, and some mayo, too," said the other. "I'd like a designer bag, Olivia. Can you buy me one?" "I could use a new set of golf clubs." They started treating me like some sort of cash cow. "Look, I'm willing to handle household chores, but I can't extend financial support like that," I told them. "I do want to take care of the home as much as I can, but we have to be firm about money. Otherwise, they'll just keep taking advantage." So I refused their requests one after another. They grew increasingly grumpy and started voicing their complaints to Daniel. "Why is she always home?" "Seems suspicious that she's making that much. She must be gambling, not working. So cocky, even though the money's from gambling. She's just lucky, that's all." It seems they've been saying things like that to Daniel. Daniel, meanwhile, had switched to a job with a lower salary, but no overtime. Since he no longer had to pay rent or living expenses, all his earnings went towards whatever he wanted. He started wearing more extravagant clothes, always custom-made suits, and buying designer shoes and bags. Daniel's always loved fashion, so he seemed thrilled. Because of this, my in-laws couldn't understand why they couldn't live luxuriously as well, and started complaining to Daniel. So Daniel says to me, "Why don't you buy some stuff for my parents, as a gesture of filial piety?" But I couldn't agree with that. If it's about filial piety, why don't you do it? You're the one who can use his earnings however he wants right now. It's actually the perfect chance for you to show some filial piety. When I said that, Daniel made a displeased face. Probably because he couldn't argue against my point. But if he started taking care of his parents financially, he wouldn't be able to indulge himself. That's why he can't commit to it. So that's why he's been relying on me. But since I declined, Daniel has been increasingly harsh towards me lately. "You're always glued to your computer, and you don't even wear makeup. What kind of woman does that? You think you don't have to care because you're always at home? You won't be a good match for me if you keep looking so sloppy." Hold on, what do you mean not a good match? Who cares about matching when we're inside the house? Women start looking worse when they stop caring. You should always try to look beautiful. Daniel started to say things that made me uncomfortable more frequently. His parents have observed this, began to complain directly to me as well. "Why can't you cook better meals? You may earn money, but you're failing as a wife if you can't handle household chores. You should fulfill all your duties as a wife." Having heard that from my in-laws, I finally lost my patience and retorted. "But thanks to my income, all of us, including Jessica, can live comfortably, right? I think that's what matters most. Besides, Jessica is healthy and not working, yet she doesn't do any housework, right? And didn't Stephen quit his job? What would you do if I weren't here? I don't need to be praised, but why do you have to nitpick everything?" When I said that, my in-laws were red in the face, trembling and speechless. Probably because my points were too valid to refute. Then they started talking behind our backs when Daniel and I weren't around. But they spoke so loudly that I could clearly hear the three of them bad-mouthing me in the living room. "What's up with that wife? She's always making fools out of us. It's infuriating. Her words last time were so condescending. Olivia has changed. She thinks she's all that just because she made some money gambling. If Olivia can make that much, we should be able to earn a lot if we start doing Forex trading, right?" "Exactly. If Olivia can do it, so can we." "Yeah, let's start doing it right away." I couldn't believe my ears. Investing is nothing like gambling. It's not something you can just learn quickly and start making money. You'd think that Stephen and Daniel, having worked in companies, would know this. But ever since that conversation, both my in-laws and Daniel started getting increasingly confrontational towards me. At breakfast, they'd say things like, "Gotta check the stock prices." "Need to get ahead of someone we know." And then start checking on their laptops right at the table. I started to feel like I didn't belong in this family if that's how they were going to treat me. Then, something shocking happened. One day, I went out with a friend to take a break and enjoy a favorite anime event. I decided to put work on pause and hit the town. Just then, I happened to spot Daniel. I saw him in front of a high-end store downtown. He was just coming out of the shop. Buying more designer stuff, huh? He should be investing that money instead. As I was absent-mindedly watching him, a young woman came out of the store and started getting cozy with him. I quickly hid behind a corner with my friend and took pictures with my phone. I was definitely shocked. Although things had been tense between Daniel and me, I thought he still kept the lines clear between our personal and public lives. I believed he still loved me as his wife, but that wasn't the case. Daniel was involved with another, younger woman. Something snapped inside me. I didn't want to be with him or live with his parents anymore. Starting that day, I began looking for a single-bedroom condo for myself, and I stopped doing chores and taking care of my in-laws. I questioned why I needed to do it at all and just stopped. My in-laws were furious at me. I found out Daniel was also mad at me, and one day I was suddenly summoned by my in-laws. "What the heck is going on with Olivia lately?" "I can't stand Olivia's behavior anymore. She's so disrespectful, especially for a wife." "Mom and Dad are right. Olivia's getting way too big for her boots." And then Jessica loudly chimes in. "I can't stand anything about Olivia." "Excuse me? What do you mean?" "Get out. We want to live as a family without you." It seemed they had decided to kick me out. Daniel had even prepared divorce papers. "I've already filled out my part. Just sign it." This was the opportunity I had been waiting for. I immediately signed the divorce papers. "Fine, get out." "All right." I replied like that and began packing. "Now this house will finally be ours." "Let's celebrate by having some fancy steak." My in-laws were talking loudly, making sure I could hear their snide comments. I just packed my stuff without paying any attention. I'll just take the essentials for now. I'll have a moving company pick up the rest later. As I said this, my in-laws, grinning smugly, said, "Make it quick, would you?" It's funny how confident they looked, even though they were the ones at a loss. Or maybe they're just idiots. Oh well, I'll prepare something to bring them down a notch. Then I went back to my parents' house. Later, I went to our high-rise apartment with movers to get the rest of my big items. "So now this apartment is totally ours, huh?" Daniel said, wearing a disgusting smirk. I said, "By the way, we haven't finished discussing the divorce." I then produced the evidence of Daniel's affair that I'd gotten from a private investigator. Daniel was at a loss for words, looking at the pictures of his affair. "We'll have to settle some compensation for your affair before we divorce." Even his parents seemed shocked. They had no idea their son had been having an affair. "What? How? How did you find out about the affair?" "You probably let your guard down because I've been home, not going out." Arm in arm in broad daylight? Really foolish. "We'll discuss the rest through lawyers." When I said that, my in-laws chimed in. "Daniel, you don't have to listen to a woman like her anymore." "But we have a trick up our sleeve." Yeah, we sure do." What could their trick be? Then Daniel dropped a bombshell. "If I invest about $50,000 in margin trading, I could quickly turn it into $100,000. That sounds like a dangerous gamble. I wanted to warn him, but I held back. Sometimes you have to learn the hard way. And this could be an expensive lesson for Daniel and his parents. I hope it works out for you. With that, I headed toward the front door to leave. Daniel and his parents followed me, taunting. "Now you won't be able to look down on me. I'll be the successful one." I ignored them and went straight back to my parents' house. Later, I demanded compensation from Daniel through my lawyer. Since he was at fault, I also requested no division of assets. My lawyer said, "He seemed pretty confident and agreed to pay in one lump sum. He even said he was fine with no division of assets." Did his margin trading plan actually work? Turns out, he hadn't done it yet. He planned to after he paid the compensation. Well, all the better for me. The compensation was paid in full, and I invested it. Thanks to that, I made more money and saved even more. Eventually, I started living alone in a condo. I never cared for a high-rise apartment, so a regular condo was enough for me. Life went on, elegantly alone. Suddenly, I received a call from Daniel. I had forgotten to block his number, so I reluctantly answered. "Hello?" "Olivia, help me." "What happened?" "I lost $50,000 in margin trading. Now it's not just about making money. I can't even pay off my debts." "Well, that's unfortunate." "How come you always win with such gambles?" Let me clarify. I wasn't gambling. I studied and calculated my investments. If you just throw money around like you're playing the lottery, of course you're not going to win.
I see. Olivia, please come back. If this continues, I'll have to cancel my $5,000 a month high-rise apartment.
Maybe you should. You couldn't afford it on your salary anyway.
But my mom and dad are still convinced it'll work next time. They're pushing for more margin trading.
Wow, you really should stop them. But it doesn't involve me anymore. Now, you need to take responsibility for taking care of Jessica and the others. Goodbye.
Wait!
With that, I hung up the phone. According to a mutual friend, it turns out my in-laws went ahead and engaged in another risky investment venture. They ended up failing miserably and taking on an additional $30,000 in debt. And of course, they had to cancel the luxury apartment. Luckily, the apartment was in Daniel's name, so I didn't have to deal with any of the fallout. My former in-laws are now drowning in debt, making repayments a real struggle. As for Daniel, he has to put all his income toward debt repayment, and it looks like his mistress dumped him because of it. In the end, Daniel had to pick up extra jobs and is working from dawn till dusk, pretty much returning to his sweatshop days. My former in-laws also have to work to pay off their debts. Honestly, I don't have an ounce of sympathy for them. They've brought all of this on themselves. Maybe now they've learned the hard way what investment really is. Although it'll probably be a long time before my ex and his family can accumulate enough money to invest again. Not that it matters to me. On my end, I've continued to prosper through my investments and have reached a point where I don't need to work anymore. From here on, I plan to enjoy my time, indulge in my hobbies, and earn a comfortable living on the side.